America's two great pastimes collide on this podcast. It is baseball and making money. From the dog days of summer through the October Classic, Greg Bases Peterson's going to be free swinging at the betting board as he tries to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. Now here is GP.
Happy Monday, everyone. Hope everyone had a tremendous Mother's Day and a tremendous weekend. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuñia Tequila Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas for MLB Overtime Betting. We've got a terrific show for you as Matt Perrault of SB Nation Radio's terrific show, Pushing the Odds, going to be joining me in the second segment. In the final segment of the show, we do what we always do on this fine podcast, give you a side and total on every game on today's baseball betting board, and a little something I'd like to call touch 'em all. Did not get any Twitter questions today, so as always, if you ever have a Twitter question about baseball betting or anything like that, feel free to fire them in. At @unit_81 is where you do that. So now let's take a look back at Sunday's results, try to find some trends from them, and let's try to become better handicappers for it.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
Rain delays typically lead to some weird results, and two delays that cause some weird results both happened out there in the AL East. This first one was your typical rain delay as the Baltimore Orioles were able to get a nice 5-1 win over the LA Angels. If there's one guy that you could trust as a starting pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles right now, it's actually Jonathan Means. He was about a plus 145 to plus 150 underdog, and he delivered. 6 innings pitched, just 4 hits, 1 earned run. That 1 run that he gave up was a solo home run to Mike Trout, his 9th of the year. Completely understandable, though, as he was able to get the job done. And then from there, the bullpen of the Baltimore Orioles actually looked pretty decent. Michael Givens out of the bullpen has actually been pretty good for this team. The lone weak link that really came in out of the bullpen was Sean Armstrong. He currently has a 6.23 ERA, but even he was able to deliver a scoreless inning. For the Baltimore Orioles, they really had their offense going. Chris Crush Davis, his 5th home run of the year. Pedro Severino, his 5th. Dwight Smith Jr., his 8th. And then you had Stevie Wilkerson go deep for his 3rd dinger of the year. Meanwhile, for Griffin Canning, just not a good start for him. He looked very good in his first couple starts for the LA Angels, but in this one, he got dinged up 4 2/3 innings, gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were solo home runs, so that is important to note. But for the LA Angels bullpen, it continues to be good. 3 1/3 innings, Nick Ramirez gave up a run, but that was the only run surrendered by that bullpen. So all in all, still a trustworthy bunch, but you gotta like what Jonathan Means showed. The other delay was of a different kind, as there was a power outage that caused a 42-minute delay out there in Tampa Bay. At that point, it was the top of the 9th inning. The Yankees were able to get out to a 3-1 lead. They wind up scoring 4 in the 9th after that delay. So the power outage led to some Yankees power, and then being able to deliver a home run in the 9th inning. Thairo Estrada, his 2nd of the year, as the Yankees had it all going on in this one. Masahiro Tanaka, 7 innings pitch, gives up just 1 run. That 1 run was a home run by Austin Meadows. He is a big addition to the Tampa Bay Rays. That is his 8th dinger of the year. You can tell that they were really missing a little bit of something when he was out. And then from there, Zach Britton and Caleb Green were able to close the door. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, they got a decent start out of Blake Snell. You really can't put this loss on him. He's out 3-4, but in 5 2/3 innings, he did wind up giving up 2 runs, but 12 strikeouts. It was really the bullpen of this team that gave it up. Austin Pruitt was the man that gave up those 4 runs in the 9th inning, and then Ryan Stanek, who was pitching on back-to-back days, wound up giving up 1 run in this one as well. Going to be interesting to see how the Rays play moving forward, considering they now have Tyler Glass now out of the lineup. Sticking in the AL East, the Boston Red Sox continue to mash. In all 3 of their games in their series against the Seattle Mariners, they were able to hang at least 9 runs. In this one on Sunday, they hang 11 as they knock off the Mariners by a count of 11-2. For the Mariners, they continue to get home runs. Omar Narvaez, his 7th home run of the year, and they also continue to get some bad pitching. Marco Gonzalez winds up giving up 4 runs in 4 innings. This wasn't necessarily all on him, as Jay Bruce misplayed a fly ball, so only 2 of their runs were earned. But then from the bullpen, all 4 arms that entered into the game for the Seattle Mariners all left with ERAs above a 5.6, and all but one of them, Anthony Swarzak, gave up at least 2 runs in this game as well. Meanwhile, for the Boston Red Sox, it's insane. JD Martinez, 2 home runs in this game. His 6th and 7th of the year. They were able to pound out 12 hits. They also drew 8 walks. They were just terrific. And Hector Velasquez, a guy that typically delivers only three innings in his starts for the Boston Red Sox, was actually able to give them 5 in this one. He wound up giving up 2 runs, including that dinger to Tavares, but from there, Marcus Walden delivered 2 good innings, and Josh Smith, no, not the former NBA player, wound up giving 2 good innings as well. They both gave up just a combined 2 hits in their 4 innings of relief. So the Boston Red Sox bullpen really looking good. And the Chicago White Sox bullpen, I've been mentioning it on the podcast quite a bit. Their bullpen has actually been terrific recently, and they get a 5-1 win over the Toronto Blue Jays. They also got a good start out of Lucas Giolito. Perhaps this guy's turned over a new leaf, because in 7 innings pitched, just 1 walk, the command looks much better for him. He had 8 strikeouts. 3.55 is now his ERA, and then from there, the White Sox were able to get 2 flawless innings from the bullpen. And for the White Sox on offense, Yonder Alonso, guy hitting below the Mendoza line, his 6th home run of the year. Tim Anderson provides his 8th. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, you figured at some point the ERA for Aaron Sanchez was going to heighten up because he's been allowing so many walks, and it did. He wound up going 6 innings in this game, but he wound up giving up 5 runs, all of which were earned. He did have 11 strikeouts, which is nice. And then from there, the bullpen of the Toronto Blue Jays continues to be good. They give up just 1 hit and no runs in 3 innings of relief. But when the offense is only scoring 1 run, it's really hurting this team. The Toronto Blue Jays are playing everything under. They've got a batting average below 200 ever since Vlad Guerrero Jr. has gotten called up to the big leagues. And Eric Sogard is the only guy right now on this roster that's hitting above 280. So really some bad signs for the Toronto Blue Jays, but some good signs for the Houston Astros as they just completely pulverized the Texas Rangers by a count of 15-5. It was a good day for guys that were making their first start of their career, and leading it off was Corbin Martin, who goes 5 1/3 innings, 9 strikeouts, gives up 2 runs, including a home run. Being able to get that home run for the Texas Rangers was Isaiah Kinnear-Felfa. That was his first home run of the year, but all in all, you had to really like what you saw out of him. And then the bullpen was a little bit shaky from there. If you are looking for something that has not been good for the Houston Astros, Chris Davinsky now has an ERA that is approaching 6. He wound up giving up a home run in the 9th inning of this one to Elvis Andrus. That was his 6th home run of the year. And then they have Colin McHugh coming out of the bullpen right now. He was just failing as a starter, and in 1 2/3 innings, he did allow a run. So important notes there with the Houston Astros, but you also have to note the power. Alex Bregman, his 11th and 12th home runs of the year. George Springer, his 14th and 15th dingers of the year. The Texas Rangers, they have a bullpen that you just cannot trust, and Adrian Sampson just got completely shelled in this game. In 3 1/3 innings, he gives up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, including 2 of those home runs. And then Brett Martin wound up coming in for 2/3 of an inning, gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. And they also had Ariel Gerardo fail them out of the bullpen as well. He entered with an ERA of 0, and he actually left with an ERA of 0 because all 4 of the runs that he gave up were unearned, and that was thanks to Danny Santana and Asdrubal Cabrera making errors early in this game. Texas Rangers, 5 unearned runs in this game, just absolutely atrocious. They're a team that you've got to be looking at over with because they've got an explosive offense, and they don't have much in regards to pitching or defense. A team that does have quite a bit in regards to pitching and defense is the Minnesota Twins, but they wind up falling to the Detroit Tigers by a count of 5-3. For the Tigers, they were actually able to get a Nick Castellanos home run early in the game, his 3rd of the year, and then Brandon Dixon went deep off of Martin Perez for his 3rd. Martin Perez has been looking sensational for this team all year, but he takes his first loss for the Minnesota Twins. 5 innings pitched, he gave up those 2 home runs. He gave up an additional run, so 3 runs, all of which were earned from them. And then from there, the Minnesota Twins wound up giving up 2 runs out of the bullpen. The man that surrendered those was Trevor Hildenberg. He now has a 6.59 ERA. But for the Minnesota Twins, you did see Ahir Adrianza get his 2nd home run of the year. That was an encouraging sign, and that was off of Daniel Norris, who all in all for the Tigers delivered a good start. He gave up that home run, but in 6 1/3 innings, he gives up 2 runs, both of which were earned. Now, the team did get into a little bit of trouble with loading up the bases and everything like that, but the bullpen was able to get the job done. Jose Jimenez was able to get a hold, and then Shane Green from there was able to close the door with a save, as everyone that entered the bullpen from the Detroit Tigers had a 4.41 ERA or lower at the end of the game. So very good signs there. And good signs for the Philadelphia Phillies because, as I mentioned, guys that were making their first career starts had some success, and that was no exception for Caleb Irvin. He winds up getting the win in his first career start, goes 7 innings, gives up just 1 run. Now, it always helps that you go up against the Kansas City Royals, but he looked absolutely stellar in this one. And then from there, Juan Niesco and Sir Anthony Dominguez were able to be nails out of the bullpen. The Philadelphia Phillies weren't able to get a home run in this one, but they were able to play a whole bunch of small ball. They were able to draw 6 walks, and Jacob Junis just was not able to get online with his command. 4 1/3 innings. He gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned. That is because of 5 walks. And then the bullpen of the Kansas City Royals was actually decent in this one. In 4 2/3 innings, they give up just 1 run. Jake Diekman continues to be good out of the bullpen, but you're just not able to do much if you're the Kansas City Royals if Alex Gordon is the only guy getting an RBI, as they were just not able to hit Irvin. So perhaps that's a guy that we need to bet on moving forward. And a team that has been getting some plus prices and has been cashing at the window, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are able to rally after the St. Louis Cardinals get up by a count of 6-3, and they're able to get a 10-6 win, courtesy of 7 runs in the final 3 innings of the game. What more can be said about Jordan Bell? He hits his 10th home run of the year. He had 5 RBI in this game. For the Pirates, Steven Perrault did not deliver a good start. He gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned, but the bullpen of the Pirates, which is one of the worst out there in the big leagues, winds up going 5 1/3 innings. They give up 3 hits, no runs. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, they were able to get an okay start out of Dakota Hudson. He gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. Nothing great, nothing awful, but a bullpen that had been one of the best out there in the big leagues wound up failing them. John Breba, who has been good for this team all year long, in 1 inning gives up 3 earned runs. And then Greg Gallegos ends up giving up 2 runs in his inning of relief as well. That was the difference in the game. But if you're looking for something encouraging for the St. Louis Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt was able to hit his first home run in a while. That was his 10th of the year. And Jose Martinez goes deep for his 3rd dinger of the year. Got to be taking overs whenever you see Steven Perrault and Nick Kingham go to the mound. They're getting totals of 9, and they're just not pitching well. And then the offense for them magically is stepping up. A offense that has just been on an absolute tear lately. The Colorado Rockies, they get a 10-7 win over the San Diego Padres. In this one, Nick Maragavicius, not a good start. 5 innings pitch. He gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. That did include 2 home runs, as the Rockies were able to pound out 3 dingers in this one. Providing the power was Charlie Blackmon with 2 home runs, his 7th and 8th of the year. And then Remiel Tapia added in his 5th dinger of the year. Antonio Senzatella gave the team a pretty good start. 6 2/3 innings, gives up 3 runs, none of which were homers. He lowers his ERA to a 5.35. But whenever you see So-Oh go into the game for the Colorado Rockies, you have to be fearing for your life. In 2/3 of an inning, he gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. He now has a 10.05 ERA. Fortunately, the Rockies were able to get off to such a good start. And for the Padres, their bullpen in this series was just uncharacteristically bad, as they got absolutely no help whatsoever from Gerardo Reyes. He gives up 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning. He now has an ERA above 17. 17-18 to be exact. I don't know what happened of significance in that year. I'm not going to try to tell you, but I will also tell you that Brad Wiak, he now has a 6.75 ERA after he gives up 2 runs out of the pen as well. Perhaps the Padres are coming back down to earth, and perhaps it's a Coors Field effect, but the Giants, another team out there in the NL West, they play another over. I believe that 7 of their last 8 games have now gone over. They get a 6-5 win over the Cincinnati Reds, as they were able to erase deficits throughout the game to be able to get the job done. And for the San Francisco Giants, they get home runs out of Pablo Sandoval and Brandon Belt. Sandoval is 4th, Brandon Belt his 6th dinger of the year. Madison Bumgarner did not necessarily have his best start in this one. He gives up 4 runs in 6 innings, but just 2 of which were earned. He was not really helped out by the fielding very much, but a Giants bullpen that had been leaking oil in recent weeks was able to do a bit of a better job in this one. Reyes Moranta winds up giving up a run out of the bullpen, but in all 3 innings pitched by the bullpen, they give up just 1 run. And then for the Cincinnati Reds, the bats are certainly starting to pick it up. Yasiel Puig, his 7th home run of the year, and Tyler Mahle, not a necessarily ideal start. 6 1/3 innings. He gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. He now has a 3.97 ERA. But Dylan Hernandez, who has been very trustworthy for the Reds and has seen a lot of appearances this year, winds up giving it up in the 8th inning. He gives up 2 runs, none of which were the home runs, but just was unable to get the job done late in the game. So that's why the Reds did not emerge victorious there. A team that did emerge victorious, the Cleveland Indians, as they take out the Oakland A's by a count of 5-3. The bats might be finally starting to come around for the Cleveland Indians as Roberto Perez hit his fourth home run of the year, and Jeffrey Rodriguez continues to be a little bit of an undervalued pitcher. This was not necessarily his best start. He gave up 3 runs in 6 innings, but that was a 2.92 ERA. And then from there, the Indians bullpen continues to be in the nails. In 3 innings of relief, Kimber, Nick Whitgren, and Brad Hand go 3 innings, giving up just 1 hit. They were sensational. Meanwhile, for the Oakland A's, Daniel Magnan did not look great coming off the injured list and making his first start of the year in 5 1/3 innings. He gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. That include 4 walks. And Fernando Rodney wound up giving up 0 runs in his 1 inning of relief. That is noteworthy because that is very rare for Fernando Rodney, who now has an 8.16 ERA. And then for the Oakland A's, they were able to get a home run out of Matt Olson. That was his first of the year. Obviously a good sign there, but all in all, got to continue to take unders with the Indians and the A's. Both these offenses are struggling. Offenses that have been pretty good all year long, but have been a little bit hit or miss are the Atlanta Braves and the Arizona Diamondbacks, as the Braves are able to get a 5-3 win. This is despite the fact that the teams combined for 26 hits. They were leaving men on base left and right. The Braves left 7 on base, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, so many missed opportunities with 11 men left on base. And it was really an interesting game there because Zach Godley got the start for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but he only went 2 innings, gave up 1 run. That loss is not necessarily on him, but John Duplantier, who wound up coming into the game after him, went 3 innings, but he gave up 3 runs. That was not necessarily great for him, as for the year, he's actually been pretty good out of the pen, but he now heightens his ERA to a 2.25. X. Fried wound up delivering a decent start for the Atlanta Braves. On the flip side, he wound up giving up a home run to Adam Jones, his 8th of the year, but all in all, a decent start considering he had to leave his last start early. 5 innings pitch. He gives up 3 runs, all of which were earned. But how about the Braves bullpen starting to turn over a new leaf? Sean Newcomb has now been coming out of the pen. He's been doing a good job in that regard. Luke Jackson was able to get the save. You have Winkler, who's been doing a nice job out of the pen. He has got a 1.50 ERA, and now you're taking a look at Jacob Webb being a very solid bridge guy as well. He's got a 1.80 ERA. So very good signs there for the Atlanta Braves. Not so good signs for the Washington Nationals offense, as it was Hyun-Jin Ryu who had a terrific start for this team. He follows up his complete game shutout by pitching in this one 8 innings of 1-hit baseball. The only reason why he didn't complete the game is because he jacked up his pitch count to a 116, but he's 1.72 ERA, and his 5-1 record has to put him into early consideration for the Cy Young. And a good sign for the team is the fact that Cody Seager was able to hit his 3rd home run of the year as the Dodgers were able to play a little bit of small ball themselves. They did a good job of being able to draw walks. And for the Washington Nationals, Steven Strasburg delivered a decent start. 6 innings pitch. He gives up 2 runs. He now has an ERA of a 3.63. This loss not necessarily on him. Kyle Bearclaw out of the bullpen, though, gives up 4 runs in the 8th inning. He had been one of their most reliable arms. He entered into this game with an ERA below 2. It has now ballooned to a 3.52 as the Nationals continue to have the worst bullpen out there in the bigs, and the power that was there for this team actually a little bit for the past few days just was not there. But you got to expect that with getting guys like Anthony Rendon and Juan Soto back, that it's going to get a little bit better. And you got to think that the Brewers' bats are going to get a little bit better when they leave Wrigley Field, as they were unable to pull it off as the Cubs get a 4-1 win on Sunday Night Baseball. Being able to deliver the big hit for the Chicago Cubs was Chris Bryant. That was his 8th home run of the year. You saw John Lester, even though he got into a lot of trouble and was not getting a lot of help from the fielding, deliver another good start. He clumps 9 hits together, and the 1 run that he gave up was unearned. He might need to be in the running for the Cy Young as well, because he's now 3-1, 1.16 ERA. Brandon Kitzler and Steve Cishek were able to close the game out from there. They go 2 1/3 innings. Both these guys now have ERAs below a 2.9, as Kitzler, 1.93 ERA. He looked terrific out of the pen. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers, they got a good start out of Ulysses Chacin. He winds up going 6 innings, gives up 2 runs, only 1 of which were earned. He has a 4.57 ERA. He just seems to pitch really well against the Chicago Cubs, but Adrian Hauser is a guy that you really can't trust for the Milwaukee Brewers. His ERA now is 6.10. He winds up giving up 2 runs in his 2 innings of relief, including that home run. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, you've just got some struggling bats. It was good to see Jesus Aguilar be able to get 2 hits in this game, but all in all, this Milwaukee Brewers lineup is feast or famine. The big takeaways from Sunday is the fact that Jonathan Means looks like a guy that you can back for the Baltimore Orioles. The Red Sox are no longer a team that you should be fading, and they are on a power surge. The Mariners continue to play overs. The Blue Jays continue to play unders. The White Sox bullpen continues to be terrific. The Tampa Bay Rays get back Austin Meadows, but they lose Tyler Glass now. Jury's still out on them. The Astros continue to score in bunches. The Twins are playing a lot of unders right now. The Phillies are getting some great pitching. Whenever you see Steven Perrault or Nick Kingham on the mound for the Pirates, you got to be looking at it over. The Padres bullpen seems to be letting them down a little bit. The Indians and the A's continue to play unders, and the Atlanta Braves bullpen seems to be revamped, and Hyun-Jin Ryu, a guy that you've got to be betting on. So those were my takeaways from Sunday. Now let's get a little bit more of an AL East perspective. One thing that I noted is how well the Boston Red Sox are playing. Matt Perrault is very familiar with this team. He does terrific work for SB Nation Radio, and he's going to be joining me next right here on MLB Overtime Betting.
Greg is going to the bullpen as he makes a call to the Azuña hotline.
And we're back here on MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios out here in Las Vegas. Great pleasure to have on our next guest. He does a terrific job hosting nationally for SB Nation Radio. He also does some hosting right here in Las Vegas on 920 The Game. He's got a special 1 hour of his show before he goes nationally. You can follow him on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt. It is Matt Perrault, and if you recognize that name, not just from his show, it's because he's also been on College Hoops Overtime Betting as well. And Matt, how are you doing on this fine day?
I am wonderful. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Hopefully everybody was getting what they want and had a good day. Baseball season's rocking and rolling, and it's been a very interesting start to the baseball season.
It truly has been. I know that you're a gentleman, that you hail from the northeastern part of the country. You're a big Boston Red Sox fan. Things obviously did not go off as planned. Chris Sale winds up getting off to an 0-5 start and everything like that, but over the weekend, we saw the Red Sox just absolutely take it to the Seattle Mariners. They were able to score 9+ runs in all 3 games of the series. The bats look like they're online. The bullpen appears to be improving. These starters, sans, I guess you could say, Rick Porcello, seem to be getting online as well. What have you seen out of this team? Because it feels like the turnaround has come.
Yeah, look, they got off to such a horrible start. And when, you're 6-13, you're the defending champs, there's too much talent there. And, I've got friends of mine who work around the team and people who are, very close to the Red Sox who kept on shaking their head saying, this is ridiculous. There's too much talent on this team. Even with so-so pitching, this is a team that can outslug pretty much anybody. I mean, they were number 1 in runs last year, number 1 in batting average last year. I mean, this is an offense. It's pretty much identical to 2018. So you start looking around going, all right, guys, when are you going to start to hit? And it just kind of clicked about, well, we don't really know the exact that moment, but it's been 2 weeks. And they're running through people right now. And, I mean, they're just on a red-hot streak. They've won 5 in a row. They've won 8 of 9. They've won, I think it's 13 of 15. They just, right now, offensively, are getting bad pitching, and they're in a soft part of their schedule, and they're taking advantage of it. I mean, the Mariners, we saw King Felix go in the DL today after his outing yesterday, and the Red Sox put up 9 runs yesterday. They put up 14 runs the day before. They put up 11 runs. Michael Chavis is a rookie who got off to a really good start, and he had been struggling mightily. I think he was 0 for 23, and he drove in 5 runs. He nearly hit 2 3-run home runs yesterday. Both of them were pulled foul, but they looked like he was coming around and getting his timing back, and he comes off with 5 RBIs for the Red Sox. So we haven't seen Mookie Betts. We haven't seen JD Martinez explode for one of those red-hot streaks. So now that they're sitting here at 22-19, and they're 3.5 games back of Tampa, the injuries at the top of the rotation for the Rays is definitely a big concern. And now the Red Sox are charging down the Yankees. So this is the team. This is the 3-team race we thought we were going to see in the American League East. April was horrible, but right now there's so much value in the Red Sox that, I mean, it's crazy right now just to go ahead. You can just bet them, bet the over, and sit back and watch it cash, especially the first 5. This weekend, they got through the first 5 in all 3 games where it was 6 and 6.5, and they were scoring like crazy. I played the first 5 with 6. The total was 6. And there were 3 runs scored before there were 2 outs in the game. Now, that was Porcello giving up for the Red Sox, but they turned around and scored a bunch of runs themselves. So it's been pretty remarkable to watch this team turn it around this way. And it's always, I mean, you know this, Greg. There's great value when a talented team gets off to a really bad start to get on it at the beginning and then ride that wave.
Absolutely. As we do have Matt Perrault joining me right here on the podcast, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier. the AL East race is now very interesting because the New York Yankees over the weekend looked very good as well. They take 2 out of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays. With Tyler Glass now on the 10-day injured list, it makes things interesting. Looks like he's probably going to be out for about a month for the Tampa Bay Rays. And the New York Yankees seem to be getting healthy. You've got Miguel Andujar back in the lineup. Cameron Maybin all of a sudden is hitting 300 for this team. I don't think anyone saw that coming. You got DJ LeMahieu doing a great job, and then you get back Clint Frazier and company as well. I do think that this is going to be a really interesting race because with the New York Yankees, I think we both agree that they've got some big name arms out there in the bullpen. They're going to be able to do a very good job late in games, and somehow, some way, they're finding guys like Gio Urshela that are able to put up runs, and they're on a good streak themselves.
Yeah, the Glasnow injury, and if you had him, I think the numbers were like 20-1 for him to win the Cy Young before the game you're started. If you had futures on him, I apologize because he was off to a phenomenal start, and him missing a month, they're definitely going to impact his ability to win that award. But getting him healthy for the last 2 or 3 months of the season for the Rays is a massive importance, and they don't really need it right now. But later in the year, they're going to. And speaking of health, we know the Yankees are going to get healthy here in the next couple of weeks. And when they come back full strength, I mean, if they're sitting here in second place, a game out of first, they've got to be ecstatic if this is where they're going to be, just given what we're going to see from them from a health perspective. I mean, the Red Sox can kind of say the same thing with Chris Sale and how bad he has been. If he returns to form, I mean, my goodness, the Red Sox could equally go on a run. So I think we don't really know who the best team is yet here in the AL East. But there's definitely 3 teams. The Blue Jays and the Orioles are garbage. I mean, Orioles got off to a decent start, kind of like the Mariners, but they're now playing back to their pathetic rosters and how bad they are. But I think if you're a Yankee fan, you believe it's going to be you and the Red Sox, and probably come August 1st, we'll see who's healthy and then really get after it over the last 2 months.
I agree with you there. And I'm noticing something else from the division is that we're seeing a trend really pick up. The Toronto Blue Jays are playing unders like crazy right now. I have no idea what it is, but ever since Vlad Guerrero Jr. got moved up to the big leagues about 2 weeks ago or so, the Toronto Blue Jays bats have went completely MIA. They're right now hitting below 200 with him in the lineup. They're really getting nothing outside of anyone other than Eric Sogard, I guess you could say. Eric Sogard hitting above 300. He's been decent for this team, but we've seen Marcus Stroman go into the tank. Our own Sanchez on Sunday did not deliver a good start. Things just do not look good for the Toronto Blue Jays right now.
It's a great point. I mean, you look at the numbers for Toronto in terms of where they're scoring. I mean, they scored against the White Sox in this series. They scored 6 runs. Against the Twins, before that, they scored 1 run. I mean, they've scored 7 runs in the last 6 games. I mean, that is an ice-cold lineup. And a team that, look, pitching-wise hasn't been horrible. The bullpen's not been great. They've had a couple of nasty games. But, I mean, you're giving up 4 or 5 runs a game. You expect your offense to be around. I mean, you're built around that to be able to score runs in the American League East. You know you got to hit home runs and score runs. I don't know if it was because of the mania of Vlad Guerrero Jr. coming up and everybody thought, okay, our savior is here and this guy's going to come in here and hit 35, 40 home runs for us or what. But you're absolutely right. I mean, since he's come up, their offense is in the complete tank, and fading Toronto right now, in particular, just the Blue Jays' ability to score right now is a very smart play just because of their offensive inefficiencies.
It is really interesting, as we do have Matt Perrault joining me right here on the podcast. And in regards to hot and cold streaks so far this year in baseball, I've noticed that one of the hottest streaks is fading some of these aces. Guys like Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, heck, your guy Chris Sale. Yeah. If you bet against them so far this year, you've made a whole lot of money. Do you think that this is going to turn around at some point? Because we did see Mad Max be able to get a win a couple days ago against the LA Dodgers. That was courtesy of a Gerardo Parra grand slam in the 8th inning. If you had the under in that game, I feel very bad for you. But I do think that at some point these ace pitchers are going to turn around. But it's one of those things where you're getting so many plus prices whenever you're going against these guys that even if they do somehow, some way turn it around and they start winning a bunch of games, you're still probably going to be profitable in the long run, it feels like.
Yes, and this is kind of going back to as I said earlier, I highlighted my own philosophy, but it's one reason why I've always waited to Memorial Day when it comes to sports gambling on baseball, because your aces in April, so many factors come in. Like, if you just take Chris Sale for a second, he didn't pitch in the preseason. I mean, spring training, he had like 9 innings in spring training. So like they tried to keep him and limit him, and then he comes in April. It's disgusting in the Northeast. Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, New York. you should not be playing baseball in 45, 50-degree temperatures. It's horrible. So you can't feel your hand. You can't go ahead and put anything on your hand to grip the baseball. So that's illegal. So you can't put pine tar or anything to grab a hold of it. In the summer times, you're at least able to grab a hold of some bullfrog, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to get some grip on the baseball. But it's really, I think, hard for these aces in the cold weather to come out there and be as effective as they would be at 75, 80-degree temperatures. So I think if you look at Memorial Day and some of these aces who have struggled, expect them to be red hot in June and July. Expect them to really come to form because you don't see these ERAs. I mean, realistically, this has been a weird year overall for ERAs and guys who are having, Cy Young caliber performances. Zach Davies is a guy. I mean, he's got a 1.54 ERA. Chris Paddock has a 1.55 ERA. These are pitchers where you don't necessarily go into the year thinking, oh, they're going to lead the league in ERA. Your big time, big name pitchers just haven't really been there. But I think come, the end of the year, just given baseball's longevity, normally the cream rises and there could be some nice value on aces later this summer.
Absolutely. And speaking of the cream rising to the top, we've noticed a couple teams get off to a little bit of a cold start. Obviously, we talked about the Boston Red Sox a little bit earlier. They seem to be getting on the right track, but another team out there in the American League that I think is so intriguing is the Cleveland Indians. This is a team that going into Sunday was 20-18. The pitching has been there for them. Make no mistake about it. Even guys like Jeffrey Rodriguez, they're getting the job done from their pitching. One of the best bullpens out there in the big leagues. The bats are just not there. Aside from Francisco Lindor and Carlos Santana, everyone in the lineup is hitting below 250. What do you make out of this? Just because we saw the Indians past couple years have a lot of explosive bats. Obviously, Edwin Encarnacion is now in Seattle, but for them to fall off a cliff like this with their bats is just absolutely stunning.
It's stunning also given where we are right now as to the start of the season in the springy baseballs and all the home runs we're seeing, and their leading home run hitter has 6. So that's ridiculous. I mean, Cody Bellinger has nearly tripled them up in terms of what he's been able to do with the home run totals. It's a great point because I was on Cleveland against the A's and they tied the game in the top of the 9th inning. They lost the game in the bottom of the 9th inning, but they had, going into the 9th, they were like 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. And they finally got a hit in the 9th inning to tie the game up 2-2 and then ultimately lost the game 3-2 in the bottom of the 9th. But it's interesting because the division isn't that strong. But if the Indians don't play well, they're supposed to run away and hide with this division. The longer that they struggle like this, and maybe because they think, it's not that strong, that they can play this way and it's not that big of a concern. But, you lose your ace pitcher to a line drive off of his arm and he's out with a busted arm. So that's not good. And your bullpen's been okay, but that's been your strength. I mean, you kind of built your whole pitching staff around having a dominant bullpen and 2 great starting pitchers. I'm with you. I mean, the Indians are a little bit of an enigma here. They're over 500, so they're 20-18. They're 5 games back of the Twins. It depends on how you feel about Minnesota because some people say that's fool's gold, just like the Tampa Bay Rays are fool's gold. They'll eventually come back down to earth. But the Twins were a pretty popular pick to win the division because of how they had built their roster and some of their younger players. If they started to play well, if they hit home runs, the Twins could be dangerous, and they've done that. So if I'm an Indians fan, I'm concerned because this is an offensive explosion for a year, and your team's not partaking in it.
I do think that it's so interesting what's going on just in the American League in general, as we do have Matt Perrault joining me right here on the podcast. And you do bring up the Minnesota Twins. They're out there right now leading that AL Central over the Cleveland Indians. What do you make out of this team? Because we've seen guys like Martin Perez get out to a really good start. They seem to be a great bet on team any day except for when Michael Pineda goes on the mound. I've been calling him Michael Pinata all year long because he has just been awful. But that said, the Minnesota Twins doing a great job with guys like Mitch Garver stepping up. They made some big offseason acquisitions with guys like Nelson Cruz, Marwin Gonzalez, Jonathan Scope. This is a team that really feels like they're in it to win it.
Let me turn this around for a second and ask you just because I've had this on my show for a long time. When you see Eddie Rosario hitting 13 home runs, he's got 32 RBIs. How do you square that circle? Like how do you, what is your explanation for a dude who is not a home run hitter he's a power hitter, but he's not a guy who's going to hit 50, 60 home runs in a year. And this dude gets out, he's batting 238. So it's all, no one cares about strikeouts anymore. It's all about home runs. So that's all that really matters. But you look at his numbers and what this dude has done in his career, and you're like, wait a minute. In 2016, he hit 10 home runs. Then he hit 27 and 24 home runs the next 2 years. He's got 13 now. It's like, you could talk about, oh, it's a hot start and whatnot, but it feels to me that either the baseball is the problem or the players are the problem. And I'm 42 years old. I lived through the steroid era. I remember the Ken Kennedy Sports Illustrated with the baseball and the big needle in front of it. And I read Juiced and thought, oh my gosh, if Canseco is half right about all this stuff, baseball is going to go through a massive change. When you have Cody Bellinger and you've got Christian Yelich and you have Eddie bleeping Rosario hitting this many home runs, I want to believe that baseball is clean. I do. But I have no explanation for what's going on. And that's how the Twins are doing this, because they got dudes like Eddie Rosario hitting 13 home runs in the first 6 weeks of the season. It's just blows my mind as a baseball lover that we're all just being asked to accept this, and everyone's going, oh yeah, it's totally normal when Cody Bellinger breaks Major League Baseball records for April. Yeah, it's completely, totally fine. It's just a normal start to the year. I know he's talented, rookie of the year and all. I get that Cody Bellinger is a talented player. I have a real tough time sitting here saying that baseball is 100% clean, given where we are right now with some of these numbers. And the Twins are one of those teams. They're going to ride a hot bat, and they're going to ride a ton of home runs. And if the home runs keep on flying, the Twins are going to stick around, I think, for the summer.
And Eddie Rosario, 6'1", 180 pounds in 2015 at 15 triples and 13 home runs.
Right. I mean, this is what this dude, he had more triples than home runs in 2015. He's got 13 home runs right now, which is the same number he had in all of 2015 in 122 games played. He's played 37 games this year and he's got 13 home runs. It's just, these are the numbers that we all, back in the late 90s, we all started going around going like, man, that guy's not that big, but how in the heck is he hitting that many home runs? I hope that it's not a new steroid era. I really hope I'm wrong. And everyone's saying, Matt, it's the baseball. It's the baseball. Oh, okay. But that was sort of the idea that we heard back when it was Canseco and Sosa and Bonds. They all would say, oh, Matt, they're lifting weights now. Players never lifted weights before. Now they're actually, they understand their conditioning. They're eating better. They're lifting more weights. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, that's a needle in their butt that they're sticking, and that's why they're doing this. I really hope that it's not, but given these numbers, given the start of the year, given the players, you're absolutely right about the size of some of these guys. Christian Yelich, he's not Barry Bonds 2.0, and he's out here hammering these balls left and right, and it's just, I hope I'm wrong, but it's like fool me once, fool me twice type stuff. It's like shame on me if I go through this again and go, oh yeah, this is totally normal. So teams are building on it. Baseball is, for the most part, the big market teams are doing well. Smaller market teams aren't doing all that great with attendance, but ratings are up and people are watching. And frankly, it goes back to the old adage that people like a lot of scoring. They don't like 2-1 baseball games. I do. Most people don't.
I'm right there with you. I can get behind a higher scoring game. I can get behind a lower scoring game, but we do now have it on the record. Matt Perrault does not think that Eddie Rosario is doing this all because he's eating broccoli and zucchini.
I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm not accusing any player of anything. I'm just saying the body of work, everything that's going on right now in Major League Baseball, the numbers across the board. When we're watching Bellinger batting 394, it's May the 13th, whatever the heck the date is, batting 394. Yelich got 16 home runs. Bellinger's got 38 RBI. I mean, it's just Rosario and Springer have 13. I mean, Double E's got 12. Jay Bruce has got 12. Mitch Moreland, by the way. Mitch bleeping Moreland for the Boston Red Sox. Not even a full-time first baseman for the Boston Red Sox. He's got 12. He's on pace, I believe, for 55 home runs. Mitch Moreland. Okay? These are the things that we start to go, guys, something's going on here. I don't know what it is. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying the numbers in baseball right now are a little bit suspect.
I come on this podcast every single day and I just sit here like, another home run for Eddie Rosario? Are you kidding me? So I'm right there with you. And Matt, I'd like to close it up with this. Obviously, you do tremendous work out there with SB Nation Radio, your show pushing the odds. You're tremendous out here in Vegas. Let the good people at home know where they can find you on social media and how to listen to your show.
Absolutely. You can stream the show, the local show. If you're in Vegas listening, we're on from 9 to 10 Pacific time. LVSportsNetwork.com to be streamed, or you can listen to it on 920 The Game in Vegas over the air from 10 to 1 Pacific, 1 to 4 Eastern when we go national. That show is streamed SBNationLive.com. And You can always follow me on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt, and I tend to tweet out all the segments and links and all the other fun stuff that we do. So it's a different show. It's not a sports gambling show per se. I say it's a sports talk show with heavy sports gambling influences. I talk about the same topics that everybody else is talking about. I'll break down Game 7s, in the NBA, but we'll talk about it from a sports gambling perspective and a handle perspective and, what's happening at the window. So I tend to use that information as much as I use the box score to talk about games.
Absolutely, and it is a terrific show. So big thanks to Matt Perrault for joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And coming up next, it is that time they give you a side and total on every game on the Las Vegas betting board as we touch them all.
Hey, I'm Steve Heitner, the guy who uttered the famous phrase, "That's gold." And that's the inspiration of my new podcast, That's Gold with Steve Heitner. We talk sports, sports betting, movies, comedy, food, drink, Vegas, music, movies, and more. 5 days a week. Did I say movies twice? Look, guys love it, whether they're hip or worried about breaking a hip. Find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher. That's Gold with me, Steve Heitner.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime. Greg is throwing a gem, so yeah, he better not blow it.
And a big thanks to Matt Perrault of SB Nation Radio for joining me in the last segment as we're back here in the Azuña Tequila Studios for MLB Overtime Betting. And now it is that time of the podcast in which I give you a side and total on every game on today's Las Vegas betting board as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Note that any changes that are made to these plays are going to be noted up on my Twitter page at Gino_81. We've got a lot of these plays locked in and all good to go. Other of these plays, well, we are in wait-and-see mode. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order as always. And we start with the lone game that is currently off the board. 901, 902 on the betting rotation. The Milwaukee Brewers head to Philadelphia to face off against the Phillies. The Phillies send out their Aaron Supernola. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, good old undecided. I hear he's a little bit of a question mark, but he might be able to deliver some heat. Hopefully you guys appreciated that joke. It's like the second time in the last 3 days I've made it, so if you're sick of it, just let me know on my Twitter page. But as far as the Brewers, who knows who they're going to be trotting out there for a starter? They had to go 15 innings on Saturday against the Chicago Cubs, so they had to spend a lot of their arms. They recently called up Jacob Barnes, but he has not necessarily been lights out in 12-plus big league innings in his career. He's given up 10 runs for an ERA of a 7.30. He's looked okay in San Antonio, but we're probably going to see a little bit of him in this one. As of right now, I've certainly got to lean to the run line of the Philadelphia Phillies because, for one, we notice that teams that play in these Sunday night games and then they have to play on Monday again, they seem to struggle. And with the Philadelphia Phillies, they really seem to be getting their offense going. In their last two games against the Kansas City Royals, they were completely lights out in those two games. Now, let's face it, that is against the Kansas City Royals, but let's take a look at the Milwaukee Brewers. They're just not getting a whole lot generated in regards to their offense. Jesus Aguilar still hitting below the Mendoza line, as is Travis Shaw, as is Manny Pina. It's just not going well for these guys. Orlando Arcia towards the bottom of the lineup is doing a little bit better, but aside from Ben Gamel, there's nobody in the starting lineup of the Milwaukee Brewers that's hitting above 265. They had to give Ryan Braun a day off yesterday, so obviously that's something that they've been dealing with all year long. Christian Yelich is right now really carrying the mail for the team, 338 average. I believe he had yet another RBI yesterday. The guy has been absolutely amazing with his 15 home runs, but this is just a Milwaukee Brewers team that they're spent in the bullpen, and they're going to be going up against Aaron Nola, who has actually looked a whole lot better ever since his rocky start to the year. He gave up just one run in his last outing. He's now 3-0 with a 4.57 ERA. In 43 and a third innings, he's given up 8 home runs, which is quite a bit. And with the Milwaukee Brewers, you do have a team that's able to play some good long ball. They have 67 home runs in 42 games, but with the Philadelphia Phillies, you also have a pretty good bullpen. I wouldn't consider it great or anything like that, but Hector Neris has been able to step up for this team. Sir Anthony Dominguez seems to be doing a little bit better. I like what I've seen out of Pat Neshek as well. Juan Niasco, who we saw yesterday, obviously probably not going to pitch in this game, but he's been doing a nice job with an ERA below 4 now, so the Phillies bullpen has been picking it up, and the bats in general have been a little bit hit or miss, and they're hitting right now. Rhys Hoskins, 11 home runs, 286 average, 35 RBI. Bryce Harper and Andrew McCutchen not necessarily getting it done with the average. Both these guys hitting below 240, but JT Realmuto is hitting right around 270. Odubel Herrera is back in the lineup along with Nick Williams. You got to think that they're going to be able to get on track. Cesar Hernandez hitting nearly 300. Miguel Franco has seen his average dip, but he's been able to provide some good power. And Gene Segura also hitting above 300. So early thoughts on this game is going to be the Phillies in some form or fashion, whether it be money line or run line. Total, it's really going to depend on what's posted, because something at like a 7.5 or an 8, probably going to take a look at an over. If this thing is like 9, 9.5, probably going to be taking a look at an under. But those are just initial thoughts. Official plays are going to be up when we get a line at unit_81. 903, 904 on the betting rotation. The Pittsburgh Pirates are in Arizona to face off against the Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray goes for the D-backs. Nick Kingham for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Total in this game is 8.5. If you like the over, that is anywhere between -115 and -120 juice. The under is anywhere between even juice and -105. If you're looking at the Diamondbacks, you're going to be laying anywhere between -153 and -156. If you want to take a shot here on the Buccos, clear the deck, because you're going to get anywhere between +140 and +147. Nick Kingham is not a guy I can back. Let's just be honest here. This is a gentleman that was in the bullpen to begin the year because of the injuries to the Pirates pitching staff, especially the one to Chris Archer. He has been thrust into a starting spot. His record is 1-0, but he has a 5.94 ERA. He's only pitched 16 2/3 innings. In his last start against the Texas Rangers, he only wound up going 4 innings, and he's being backed up by a bullpen that is in the bottom 10 in the majors in regards to ERA, so they have not been doing well in that regard. And Kingham, 9 walks in those 16 2/3 innings. And Robbie Ray also has his walks issues. 43 2/3 innings for the Arizona Diamondbacks. 23 free passes given up. Now, he's done a decent job of being able to limit the hard contact, and 55 strikeouts is very nice, but when you give out free passes to a Pirates team that's pretty hot, that's going to lead to runs, and we're really seeing the emergence of Josh Bell. He is hitting .319. 10 dingers, 34 RBI. He has been sensational. Melky Cabrera hitting nearly .325. Kevin Newman is hitting above .350, for goodness sakes. He's been getting the job done, which has been big, because Jung Ho Kang hitting well below the Mendoza line. Francisco Cervelli is picking it up, but he's still just a 194 hitter himself. You got to feel like Starling Marte is going to be able to pick it up, and he has. He's now hitting more around 240. Gregory Polanco hitting .317, and then you've got Brian Reynolds, who's hitting nearly 300 as well. He's been a nice addition. But then you take a look at the other side for the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is one of the better offenses out there in the big leagues, led by Ketel Marte and David Perrault. David Perrault hitting .321, and Marte 9 home runs, 26 RBI, hitting in the realm of 265. And then you've got the other guys. Christian Walker hitting nearly 300. Gerard Dyson doing a great job of being able to get on one of the top base stealers out there in the major leagues. Eduardo Escobar hitting .280 himself. Wilmer Flores has upped his average to a .282. Nick Ahmad and Kelly at the bottom of the lineup have been doing a decent job as well. The only real struggling bat you have is John Ryan Murphy whenever he's behind the dish. But then with the Diamondbacks, you also have a little bit of a leaky bullpen. Both these bullpens enter with an ERA above 4.7 for the year. We've seen Archie Bradley really not be able to get the job done. They really had to dip into their bullpen yesterday since Zach Godley gave them a start of only 2 innings, so they're going to be a little bit taxed. And with the Pittsburgh Pirates, they didn't necessarily get great pitching out of Stephen Brault either. So I do think that we're going to see runs aplenty in this game, but I do think that Kingham is going to get absolutely jacked up in this one. This is a spot where I'm actually going to be taking a look at an Arizona Diamondbacks run line. Currently, that run line price I am seeing with the Diamondbacks is +125. I'm going to try to see if I'm able to get more of a +130 or +135. Certainly would take +125, but have already locked in the over of 8.5 on this game. We move on to 9:05, 9:06 on the betting rotation. The Baltimore Orioles are in New York to face off against the Yankees. David S. goes for the Baltimore Orioles. Jonathan Loaizaga for the New York Yankees. Total on this game is 9. If you like the 9, the over is anywhere between -110 and -120. Under anywhere between even juice and -110. Looking to lay it here with the Yankees. That is -220 across the board. If you want to take a shot here with the Royals, you're going to get anywhere between +190 and $2. This is not a spot where I want to back the Baltimore Orioles. Loaizaga has not necessarily been lights out, but he's going to be backed up by a bullpen that's been pretty good so far this year. You've got guys like Aroldis Chapman, Zach Britton, Adam Ottavino, who've all been doing the job. Jonathan Holder has not necessarily been his normal self, but Tommy Kahnle has been absolutely terrific out of the pen for the New York Yankees. And then when you take a look at the Baltimore Orioles, their bullpen ERA, the second worst out there in the big leagues. They did fortunately get a very good start out of Jonathan Means yesterday to be able to help them out, but Hess is 1-4, 5.50 ERA in 34 and a third innings. He has given up 10, count them, 10 home runs. The 13 walks aren't necessarily great. They're not necessarily bad. And for Loaizaga, in 14 innings pitched, he has not been going deep in his starts, as you can tell, as he typically goes only about 3 or 4 innings. He's issued 8 free passes. He's given up 2 home runs. He's got a 4.50 ERA, 1.50 whip. Hess has actually done a decent job of limiting contact in general. It's just that when he gives up hits, they all leave the yard. And with the New York Yankees, you've got a team that through their first 40 games of the year have hit 57 home runs, and they would probably have a lot more if they had their normal pieces in. Luke Voit and Gary Sanchez, between those two, have a combined 21 home runs. You now have Gio Urshela, who's been hitting absolutely spectacularly for the New York Yankees. His average is at a 341. Clint Frazier is hitting 290. He's got some power. Brett Gardner has struggled for the team. He's hitting 204, but he essentially got the day off yesterday. They also gave Gary Sanchez a day off yesterday, so he should be fresh. Tauchman at the bottom of the lineup, only hitting 213, and you got to think that Miguel Andujar is going to be able to hit better than a $128. He just hasn't been able to find himself all year long, but while he tries to find himself, DJ LeMahieu picking up the slack for him, hitting 333, and somehow, someway, Cameron Maybin's hitting nearly 300 as well. And then for the Baltimore Orioles, all year they've been a pretty good offensive team, but we've seen them slump a little bit more. The 6 runs that they were able to hang on the Angels yesterday was a good sign, and right now they're getting some power from Dwight Smith Jr. He's hitting 286. He's got 8 home runs, but the real guy that's getting the job done for the Baltimore Orioles, Trey Mancini, he is hitting nearly 320. He's provided the team with 7 home runs, and you even saw Stevie Wilkerson get into the act in regards to power yesterday. He's now hitting 271. Renato Nunez has seen his average dip down to a 221, but he's the guy that's hit 6 stingers. Hansel Alberto also hitting 271, and the really good find for this team at the catcher spot has been Pedro Severino. He's hitting 250, 5 home runs, 9 RBI. He's been doing a nice job there, and Jonathan Villar seems to be doing a little bit of a better job of getting on base, and Chris Davis approaching the Mendoza line, people. So for that reason, I am all aboard the over, and I've already locked in this over, but I'm taking a look at a Yankees run line here. I just think that their pitching is far superior, and I think that Hess and the rest of that Orioles staff is going to get shelled. I'm seeing a Yankees run line price of between -105 and -110, and I've already locked that in as well. 907, 908 on the betting rotation. The Houston Astros are in Detroit to face off against the Tigers. Matthew Boyd goes for the Tigers. Brad Peacock for the Houston Astros. Total in this game is 8, and the over has juice of anywhere between -110 and -120, under between even juice and -110. If you're looking at taking the Tigers, you're going to get anywhere between +129 and +140. Want to lay it here with the Houston Astros. You're going to be laying anywhere between -144 and -150. Brad Peacock looked really good in his last start, but the start before against the Minnesota Twins, he got completely shelled. And Matthew Boyd has been one of the Cy Young candidates for my bankroll so far this year. He is absolutely sensational for a Tigers team that seems to be getting some better bullpen pitching as well. 4-2 record for Boyd, 0.93 whip, 286 ERA in 15 1/3 innings. He's given up just 3 home runs, 63 punch-outs, 11 walks. Those are some great numbers right there. Meanwhile, for Mr. Peacock, he's backed up by the best ERA of any bullpen out there in the big leagues. He has a 4.30 ERA himself, 47 2/3 innings. He's given up 4 home runs. He's got 38 punch-outs of his own, 10 walks. So he's all in all for the year been doing a very decent job. And we all know just how lethal this Houston Astros lineup is. So far, through 41 games, they've got 75 home runs. They're hitting 281 as a collective. That leads the big leagues. And leading that charge is Michael Brantley. He's hitting 331. Josh Reddick hitting well above 300 himself. And how about what George Springer is doing? 15 home runs so far this year. That is not a typo. 15 home runs, and he's hitting 321. Alex Bregman has been providing some power. He's got 12 dingers. He's hitting 277. Jose Altuve has missed the past couple days, but it really hasn't mattered because Diaz has been able to take his spot. He had a grand slam on Saturday. Yuri Gurriel's hitting 285. Carlos Correa's hitting nearly 300. He's got 9 home runs. you've just got a Houston Astros lineup that's hitting really well, but I do think that Michael Boyd is going to be able to give them a good performance, because what we've noticed with the Houston Astros as well is that they either are way on with their bats or they're way off with their bats, and what we've noticed with the Tigers is that they have not been generating a lot of power so far this year, but they actually were able to hit some home runs in that series against the Minnesota Twins. Ronnie Rodriguez has been terrific for this team. 5 home runs, 14 RBI, 286 average. He has not been up at the big leagues very long for this year, so that's absolutely sensational. You've got Miguel Cabrera, who's hitting 294. Only 1 home run. You got to think that at some point that's going to turn around. Nico Goodrum has been moved to the top of the lineup. He's only hitting 220, but you're getting something out of Nick Castellanos now. He was able to hit a home run for his third of the year. He's hitting 278. Brandon Dixon is hitting above 300. Jacoby Jones and Jameer Candelario have been really woes for this team. They're both hitting below the Mendoza line, but they may have found their catcher that they need to use moving forward, and John Hicks, as he's hitting 268, he was able to get a home run in that series against the Minnesota Twins as well. This is a spot where I look at the plus money with Matthew Boyd, and I'm going to wind up taking it. As long as he can go 7 strong innings, he can turn it over to Jose Jimenez and Shane Green. This is a Detroit Tigers team that can win a little bit of a lower scoring game, so for that reason, I am all aboard the under, and I've already locked it in. Currently, Wayne Seamode on the plus price with the Detroit Tigers. Before, I was seeing it plus 126, and you got to think that there's going to be more steam coming in on the Astros. So I've already locked in the under in Wayne Seamode on that Tigers plus price. 909, 910 on the betting rotation. It is the Minnesota Twins playing host to the LA Angels. Tyler Skaggs goes for the Angels. Jose Barrios for the Minnesota Twins, as the Twins are anywhere between a minus 140 and minus 150 favorite. If you want to take the plus price here with the Angels, you're going to get anywhere between plus 130 and plus 137. Meanwhile, the total on this game is 9. The 9 comes with under juice of anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is between even juice and minus 105. Seeing one straggler 8.5 out there as well. That over is minus 125. That under is plus 105. And in this one, it is all about taking the under and taking the Minnesota Twins in the spot. Currently, Wayne Seamode tried to see if I can get a little bit more favorable juice, but Jose Barrios throughout his career has been terrific at home. I believe his record at home whenever he gets a decision is 22-11. He's been great in that regard, right around a 3.50 ERA whenever he pitches at Target Field. Meanwhile, Tyler Skaggs coming off a very nice start in his last outing, but he's been a little bit inconsistent this year. 3-3 record, 4.70 ERA, in 30 2/3 innings. He's given up 4 home runs and 10 walks. Nothing great, nothing awful. Barrios, he's been terrific. 53 1/3 innings, 2.53 ERA, .92 whip. He's went at least 6 innings in every one of his starts this year. And with the Minnesota Twins not having quite the bullpen of the LA Angels, that is going to be huge. The Angels have a top 7 bullpen in regards to ERA. The Minnesota Twins right around average in regards to their bullpen ERA. But what's not been average about the Minnesota Twins, in 39 games this year, they have 71 home runs, and we're noticing that the Angels are picking it up with their offense as well. They went a little bit cold against the Baltimore Orioles yesterday, as they were only able to hang 1 run in that one, but we saw Albert Pujols on Saturday be able to hit a pair of home runs. He's hitting just 217, but the 8 home runs are a help. Cole Calhoun, not necessarily hitting for average, but he's been doing a great job with the power. Mike Trout hitting 283 with 9 dingers of his own. Daniel Fletcher and Brandon Goodwin are hitting a combined right around 300. Tommy Lastello, 255 average. He's been able to provide 7 home runs. Justin Bour and Zach Cozart are not getting the job done. Both these guys are hitting below 165, but Andrelton Simmons has seen his average tick all the way up to a 317. Meanwhile, with the Minnesota Twins, it is just a murderer's row. We were joking about Eddie Rosario before and his 13 home runs, but you've got a lot of guys for this Minnesota Twins team that are providing the power. Max Kepler hitting right in the realm of 245 to 250. He's been able to provide 8 home runs so far this year. Ahir Adrianza hit a home run for this team yesterday. Marwin Gonzalez's average continues to tick up. He was below the Mendoza line about a week ago. He's now at 231. They also got a very big piece back in the catcher spot in Williams Estadio. He's hitting 315 with 2 home runs, and whenever Mitch Garver's out there as well, he's got 7 dingers. He's hitting above 340 himself. Jorge Polanco hitting 324. CJ Cron has found it. He's got his average up to a 250. Jake Cave not necessarily doing the job, but Byron Buxton at the bottom of the lineup hitting 275 as well. I just think that the Twins are going to be able to overwhelm the LA Angels, and I think that Jose Barrios once again going to deliver a very good start. So for that reason, I've already locked in the under. Currently Wade C-mode on the Twins, trying to see how little juice I can possibly lay on this number. We move on to 9-11, 9-12 on the betting rotation. The Chicago White Sox are playing host to the Cleveland Indians. Shane Bieber fever goes for the Indians. Ronaldo Lopez for the Chicago White Sox, as we've got a total of 8. The over is anywhere between -110 and -120. Under between even juice and -110. If you're looking to take a shot here with the White Sox, could be getting anywhere between a +135 and +142 price. Want to lay it here with the Cleveland Indians. That is anywhere between -150 and -152. I do like what I've seen out of Shane Bieber so far this year. Some of the fly balls that he gives up are going to make you hold your breath, but all in all, he's certainly getting the job done, which cannot be said for one Ronaldo Lopez. I know that he had a nice start about a week and a half ago against the Tigers, in which he was able to get, I think it was 14 strikeouts in 6 innings against them. It was absolutely insane. But for the year, Mr. Lopez, 2-4, 6.38 ERA, 1.75 WHIP. In 42 1/3 innings, he's given up 9 home runs and 21 walks. On the other side for Mr. Bieber, 43 1/3 innings, he's given up 6 home runs, 3.32 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, 13 walks. We also know this about the Cleveland Indians. They're not necessarily getting the job done with the bat, and Taylor Naquin is currently day-to-day. He's actually been one of their best players in regards to average. Sadly, Leonis Martin leads the team in home runs with 6 and his 224 average, and Carlos Santana, best player with regards to average at 279, but you got to think that at some point these guys are going to be able to turn it around. You're not going to see all year long Jose Ramirez and Jason Kipnis hit below the Mendoza line. Francisco Lindor is now hitting 278. Carlos Gonzalez hitting 232. Hasn't really provided power, but they did get a good sign in Roberto Perez being able to hit a 3-run home run yesterday against the Oakland A's. He is now upped his average to a 220. Jake Bauers is hitting 240. You got to think that that's going to maintain, but Jordan Luplow has actually been terrific. 286 average. He was able to hit a pair of home runs in their series finale against the Chicago White Sox last week, so he's been coming around. Meanwhile, with the Chicago White Sox, they looked mighty impressive in their series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Jose Abreu getting the job done in all aspects for this team. 9 home runs, 35 RBI, 269 average. Tim Anderson doing a great job of being able to get on base, 331 average. Yoan Moncada at the top of the lineup does a little bit of everything, 7 dingers, 277 average. And then you've got Lurie Garcia hitting 286. Now, they do have some issues with guys like Yomer Sanchez, Ryan Cordell, and Nicky Delmonico not necessarily hitting. All these guys are hitting below 230, and Yonder Alonso hitting just $178, but Alonso was able to hit his 6th home run of the year. Perhaps that'll get him going. You've also noticed that the outfield in general has been a little bit of a mismatch, but they may have found something in Charlie Tilson. He is hitting 360. That has been a very nice find for this team, but all in all, I do think that this is a spot in which the Indians are going to be able to get right. I'm taking a look at a run line price with them, and I'm going to take it with the +120. I think Shane Bieber could provide a good start, and I think that Mr. Lopez, even though he's being backed up by a bullpen that has been improving throughout the year, is just going to get completely shelled in this one. Going to be on the over, and I'm going to be on the Cleveland Indians. I've already locked in both these plays. As we move on to our final game on the betting board, 9-13, 9-14 on the betting rotation, the Oakland A's are in Seattle to face off against the Mariners. Yusei Kikuchi goes for the Seattle Mariners. Mike Straight fires for the Oakland A's. Total in this game is between 8.5 and 9. With the 8.5, the over is -125. The under is +105. If you like the under of 9, that is anywhere between -115 and -120. Over between even juice and -105. If you're looking at the Seattle Mariners in the spot, you're going to be laying anywhere between -125 and -130. Want to take a shot here on the A's? You're going to get anywhere between +115 and +120. In his last start, Mr. Fires wound up throwing a no-hitter. Needless to say, I do not think this is going to repeat itself. I know that Seattle has a lot of travel coming up as they're having to go from Boston all the way back to the West Coast, but I do think that they're going to be able to get things rocking and rolling in this one, and I think that they're going to be able to find their bats. Mike Fiers, before that no-hitter, had an ERA above a 6.5. It's now a 5.48. He's given up 8 home runs in 46 innings so far this year, and one thing we know about the Seattle Mariners, in 43 games so far this year, 78 home runs. They've got everyone being able to hit the long ball for this team. D. Gordon being day-to-day hurts him a little bit. He has a 3.04 average. He's really been the constant there, but Domingo Santana, 36 RBI for the season. He's been doing a great job with both his average and his power. You've got Edwin Encarnacion, who has 12 home runs. Daniel Vogelbach has been able to rip the cover off the ball. Omar Narvaez had his 7th home run of the year yesterday. He's hitting above 300. Tim Beckham, a liability out there in the field, but he's about a 250 hitter that's able to provide some power. Got to think at some point Mitch Haniger is going to be able to improve upon his 229 average. And then you've got Jay Bruce, who's hitting below the Mendoza line, but has also had a double-digit amount of home runs. Meanwhile, for the Oakland A's, it's been a power outage for them so far this year. They've won just one game in which they've failed to hit a home run in, and Chris Davis has been missing in action for the team the past couple days. He was able to return yesterday, but his average is still just at a 235. He hasn't hit a home run in nearly 3 weeks. He's got 10 home runs at 26 RBI, but he's really cooled down. Matt Chapman hitting 280 is about the best average that this team has, as we've noticed that Marcus Semien at the top of the lineup has cooled down. He's now hitting 278. Jurickson Profar and Robbie Grossman both hitting below the Mendoza line. Jeff Vigley and his 269 average has been a nice find, and Matt Olson hitting his first home run of the year is obviously a good sign, but ever since he's come off the injured list, he's hitting just 214. Chad Pinder with his 271 average has been nice, but Steven Piscotty, you just don't know what you're going to get from him game to game, and Ramon Loreno has proven that he's a great outfielder in regards to fielding, but his 228 average also indicates that he's a little bit of a liability in the lineup as well. This is a Seattle Mariners team that has played over 70% of its games to the over so far this year. I certainly do think that that trend is going to continue, so for that reason, I am on the over and I've already locked it in, and I'm actually taking a look at the Seattle Mariners on the run line. This is a team that's able to score in bunches. I'm seeing a run line price here between plus 155 and plus 160. I personally have already locked in plus 160. I think that this is a game where the Seattle Mariners bats get right, and I think that they just rip Mike Fiers apart because he had to get a little bit of extended rest after that no-hitter. It is one of those things where I think that it's going to mess with his rhythm a little bit, and we've seen it with the Oakland A's. Guys like J.B. Wendelkirk, Joaquim Soria, Fernando Rodney and company, they're just not getting the job done in the bullpen like they did last year. So for that reason, Seattle Mariners run line and the over, both locked in, and that will do it for a Monday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. A big thanks to our guest, Matt Perrault, for joining me in the second segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you ever have a question for the podcast, feel free to tweet in at @GUnit_81, and let's make today a successful, profitable, and fun one, and I'll talk at you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.